Hello, good morning. I'm Fernanda Parente from Rosie DX, and I'm really happy to introduce you to our next talk. And maybe you can hear there's an ambulance just passing by. Earthbeat with Moon Ribas. Just before I introduce you to Moon, I would like to give a bit of information, a bit of housekeeping. First thing is that if you are this talk will be done in English, and if you're looking for the German translation, there should be a button under your the streaming for you which says DE, and by clicking on this button you should be able to see the translation in German. The other point I would like to bring up is that after the talk you will be able to meet Moon in our gather space for Q&A, so please join her for a more kind of personal questions and answer session, or basically if you just want to hang out with Moon. Welcome, Moon. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Hi.
Hello. Good to finally see you.
Yes.
So just want to introduce a little bit to Moon. She's a cyborg artist best known for developing the Seismic Sense, an online seismic sensor that allows her to perceive earthquakes taking place anywhere in the planet through vibrations in real time. And Ribas transposes the earthquakes into either sound or dance. In these performances, the earth is the composer and the choreographer, and Ribas the interpreter. In 2010, she co-founded the Cyborg Foundation, an international organization that aims to help people become cyborgs, defend cyborg rights, and promote cyborg art. And today she's going to talk to us a little bit about the union between our species and technology, the extension of the human senses through cybernetics, using the internet as a sense, and cyborg art, of course. And the big question is, how can becoming a cyborg enhance our relationship with animals, nature, and space? Wow, I can't wait to hear all about it. Moon, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Sorry, I got a really big cold and my voice is a bit down, so I'll try to shout. I hope you can hear me clear. So yes, I define myself as a cyborg because I extended my senses through cybernetics. There are many things that happened around us that we are unable to perceive, but I realized that if I unite myself with technology, I could reach to these more imperceptible things around us. But I'll start from the beginning because everything has started because I'm actually a choreographer and I'm a dancer. So while I was in the studio, I guess you can create movement by yourself, but also you can find movement. There are many things that move around us that we don't perceive. And then since 2007, I wanted to perceive movement in a deeper way. And then I used technology in order to perceive this movement in other places. And the first project I did was this type of glove that I would point at people, and this would tell me the speed of the people walking in front of me. But this, as you see, it had some downs because first of all, I had to point at people. That was kind of weird. And also the numbers would tell me the speed of the people walking in front of me. But I wanted something more natural. I didn't want to know the speed. I wanted to feel the speed. So in order to do that, I created, along with some tech people, a pair of earrings. And every time some people was walking, for example, from right to left, I would feel a vibration on my right ear and then a vibration on my left ear. And depending on the interval of each vibration, I would know the speed of people walking in front of me. And then after wearing this for some time, I realized that actually we all have a common movement sense. Depending of where we are and the people we have around us, we tend to walk faster or slower. So I started to do a project of defining each capital city of Europe by the speed of the citizens. So, for example, if you are in London, you will probably walk faster than if you are in Rome. So there's like this common movement sense, and I did like a movement dictionary defining each capital city of Europe by the speed of the citizens that live there. After this research, London is very fast, I realized. Stockholm was surprisingly very fast too. And the slowest capital city was like actually the Vatican City, because it's mainly a long queue of people just waiting. So no one ever runs in the Vatican City. No? It's like a very slow pace. After experimenting the speed of the people I had around, I turned around my earrings, and this allowed me to perceive movement that I had behind my body. I think our senses are focused in the front of our bodies, but in the back of our bodies, we are very dead sensory talking. No, we don't feel much. I don't know if this happens to you, but I'm a fast walker, and I like, and I used to live in busy cities, and you know when there's people blocking your way and you cannot go fast. So I think everyone should have these earrings to notice if someone is approaching you. I think the way that if everyone would have this sense, the way that we move around the cities would be very different. And actually, it's a sense that we give to cars. The new cars, if they get in closer to another car when they go backwards, they notice, they make a noise. But actually, humans, they don't feel if we have someone behind us. So I think maybe it would be useful that everyone have this. The your awareness of the space really changes. Also, maybe new sports would appear if you feel what's behind, no, like 360-degree. The thing is that when I was experimenting this, everything was the movement that I had around me and movement that come from other humans. And I thought, how can I perceive movement that doesn't come from humans? I mean, there are many things that move. And I had this image. I thought, okay, if I would be alone in the planet, how could I perceive movement? And then I realized that actually the Earth is constantly moving, not only rotates by itself or around the sun, but it constantly shakes through seismic activity. And I thought it would be amazing to be united to this huge and natural movement that is the Earth itself shaking through my body. And then it's when I started to create the seismic sense. So first I did some other experiments. I put it in my arms, but at the end I had some implants inside my feet that were connected to online seismographs. And whenever there was an earthquake somewhere in the planet, I would feel a vibration inside my body. And depending of the intensity of the vibration, depending of the intensity of the earthquake, the vibration would be stronger or less strong. And this is what I call the seismic sense. Of course, at the beginning, I had to get used to feeling all these vibrations because actually the Earth is very active and it moves a lot. So at the beginning, when I was talking and I would feel a vibration, I would get distracted or would stop talking because I was aware of something else. I would wear it 24/7. That's why we say like it's a sense, because you don't take it in and out. It's like part of you. So at the beginning, when I was sleeping, I would wake up more often. But at the end, I got used to it and I just slept like a normal person. I have to say that I get to sleep very easily, so it worked for me. Maybe if someone more sensitive, it wouldn't work. Um, and also like this, yeah, this feeling. I think it's very different to know that the Earth is moving, that actually to feel that the Earth is moving. For me, it was shocking, like to have this image that earthquakes is like the earth breathing, no? And when there's a big one, it's like a big breath. I was surprised at how many big earthquakes there are in the earth. It happens very often. So getting used to feeling all these vibrations constantly, sometimes a good way that I have to describe it is like it felt like I added a new beat inside my body. Apart from having the heartbeat, I added the earth beat, that it had its own rhythm inside my body. And I see this as art itself, of cyborg art. For me, the cyborg art would be the design of the perception of our own reality. The, as I said before, no, the reality that exists in this way because we perceive it in this way. But if we change our way of perceiving the reality, our perception and the reality changes. And this is like art itself. The thing is, so the artwork of a cyborg artist would be the creation of a new sense or a new body part. The thing of cyborg art, though, is that the artwork happens inside the artist because we modify our own perception. So in a way, we are the only audience of our own art. So this is like the downput of a cyborg art. No, it's designing your own perception. So in order to share what I feel, I create external artwork. And some of the pieces that I have, for example, I have a piece that it's called Waiting for Earthquakes, where it's an invitation to the audience just to wait for the earth to move. It doesn't have a beginning or an end. It can last 10 minutes or it can last hours. And usually in museums, so I stand still, and whenever there's an earthquake, I move according to the intensity of the earthquake. So it's a bit like a duet between the earth and myself. Actually, so during the piece, if there are no earthquakes, there will be no dance. About this, but usually there's always some seismic activity. And yeah, it's a duet between the earth and myself. Actually, the earth is the choreographer of the piece, and I'm just moving when I'm of the seismic activity. Another way that I have to translate this is through percussion. So I can do this in real time also, like waiting for earthquakes, but I usually create some scores. The first one I did was in Mexico. So I researched all the seismic activity that had happened in Mexico in the last 50 years. And I put it all together in a score that looks like this. And then I went to Mexico and I played the seismic score that I created during 10 minutes. So the people from Mexico could hear how the country had been moving seismically. So in this way, Earth is the composer of the piece. I'm just interpreting through a drum the seismic activity that happened. And lately, like my new project is like to put some natural phenomena on stage, like to treat natural phenomena as an interpreter, apart from myself and the other colleague that I've been working with, Kim Hiron. So we created a piece where we put ice on a stage. So ice has its own behavior. So yeah, my new project is to put real natural phenomena on a stage. And there's some trailers that of my piece with water and ice transforming as an ocean. Oh no, I can. Let me check another slide. Perfect. And then another project that I did recently is the creation of the seismic garment, along with two fashion tech designers. We design this type of dress that actually reacts every time there's some seismic activity. So now when I'm doing Waiting for Earthquakes, I wear this seismic garment, and whenever there's a seismic activity, the garment inflates and reacts. So audience can also see through the garment whenever there is some seismic activity. And yes, as I already said, in 2010, I co-founded the Cyborg Foundation along with my childhood friend Neil Harbison, and we founded basically with three aims. One was to help humans to become cyborgs. The other one was to promote cyborg art as an artistic movement, and the other one was to defend the cyborg rights, the right of designing your own senses and your own body parts. And since the word cyborg was coined, it has been used in many different ways, but actually it was coined by Manfred Klein and Nathan Klein. And NASA asked them to write an article, and they said, okay, apart from mechanic and bionic, they felt that we needed another word, and they created the word cyborg. And they thought, if it's in human nature to keep exploring and to leave our own planet and to explore space, instead of living all in space inside the spaceships, we should modify ourselves in order to survive in other environments. And this is when the word cyborg was created, the modification of oneself in order to survive in other environments. So we took this word and we said, well, maybe we should modify ourselves in order to understand better the planet we live in. But since it was coined, it has been used in many different ways. And then since the Cyborg Foundation, we said, well, there's many ways of feeling cyborg. We thought maybe one could feel a psychological cyborg, which is like the psychological union between cybernetics, your organism. Maybe all of you are already psychological cyborgs, because when your mobile phone is running out of battery, you say, I'm running out of battery, instead of saying, my mobile phone is running out of battery. So you have this psychological union with your phone, with your technology around you. One could be a biological cyborg, which is like the physical union between the cybernetics and your organism. And one could be a neurological cyborg, which is the modification of the mind and the brain, because you've been united with technology for so long. And then last year it came with another term. After 7 years of having the Seismic Sense, I wanted to experience something very different. I wanted a radical change. And the most radical thing I thought I could do was to take the implants out. I wanted to experience having no sense. And I was actually more scared of taking the implants out than to put them in, because I thought that everything would change. But then the most weird thing happened is that when I took actually the implants out of my skin, I could still feel vibrations. So I had this a phantom effect, like the people that they had used to have an arm and they lose it and they still feel that they have the arm. It happened to me by the Seismic Sense. I had the feeling of feeling seismic activity for so long that when I took the implants, I could still feel the vibrations. And then I thought maybe I'm a phantom cyborg because I have this phantom effect. Now, after some months, this phantom effect came out, and now I'm thinking with a new sense that I want to have. Yeah, this is when I took the implants out. Also, it's like another thing that come to us with this experimenting, creating new senses and new body parts, is that actually we don't feel related to transhumanism, because we feel that transhumanism it's very centered in human nature. It's about what I understood. It's more about upgrading human species, and we don't relate to this world at all. We feel that it's not about getting better or worse. It's about experiencing reality differently. Maybe for someone feeling all the earthquakes is worse. For me, it was a good experience, but maybe for some people it's worse. So adding new senses, is not always positive. It depends on your own perception. And so we define ourselves as twin species because we relate also with other species and we feel in the same level of the other ones. For example, a good person who also defines himself as a twin species is Neil Harbison. He has an antenna implanted in his skull. An antenna is not from human, it's not a human body part, it's an animal body part. We also feel twin species because we have organs and senses that are no longer defined it as a human sense, more as an animal sense, for example. So he has this antenna that transforms color into sound waves. So pick up the light frequency and transform it into sound, and the sound it becomes a vibration in his skull, so he can hear the color around him. Some other projects that we did in the Cyborg Foundation, some other senses that we had. For example, this was Neil and I were invited in Brazil, and we both had a tooth missing. So we were doing a workshop with 15 people, like tech designers and a dentist and everyone, and we decided that we would implant a tooth in my mouth and a tooth in Neil's mouth, and whenever I click, I did like this, Neil would feel a vibration, and whenever he clicked, I would feel a vibration, and we both know the Morse code, so we were actually able to talk to mouth by clicking our mouth. And we call this the Transcendental Communication system. Actually, we did a little experiment. I was sitting at the end of a table and the audience would write a word, and by clicking, I would send the word to Neil and he would write the word. So it was the first tryout of the Transcendental Communication system. And it worked actually with Bluetooth. So it was actually a Bluetooth tooth for real. This was some fun experiment. Then there's another colleague of us, Manel de Aguas, who's an artist, and he's experimenting with the weather sense. So he has these things planted in his skull, and he can feel the atmospheric pressure, the humidity, and the temperature. If you know the atmospheric pressure, you can know if it's gonna rain or if it's gonna be sunny. So he's actually the weatherman because he can feel the weather through his new sense. Another project that we have is from Alex, that he is experiencing the air quality sense. So it's a sense that that tells you if the air is very polluted or it's not polluted. So if we all have this, maybe your way of going home would change. You would choose the less polluted way to go home. Another experiment that we also did in Brazil was to create bioluminescence. So to have a teeth that also creates light inside your mouth. No, by also clicking, you can, if you are in completely darkness or you lose something, you can click your mouth and you can have light. The problem with this light actually is the same, but while you eat, it goes on and off. So we have to think about another way of creating this light. A combination is Joe Degnis. This is very similar with what I had that you can perceive what is behind your back, but he added temperature, so he can know if it's like a living thing or not a living thing what is approaching him. In Pau Prats, he created the ultraviolet perception. So with this, you can see if the sun is really hurting today or is not that hurting. The ultraviolet perception. Andre, he translates the cosmic rays into sound. So he can feel the cosmic rays from space into sound, and he also translates this into music. So what we say about this is actually that now that we all define ourselves as cyborgs, we actually don't feel closer to robots or to machines. We actually feel closer to the earth because I can see that it's living and reacting constantly. We can feel closer to other species because sometimes what we think is very unnatural is actually very natural. We don't really need to think about science fiction. We can just get inspired by the senses that other animals have. For example, ultraviolet already exists in nature. Like animals can fly, animals can perceive infrasound. Even immortality already exists in nature because there's a jellyfish that keeps regenerating itself. So what we think it's science fiction is actually very, very natural. Also, what we say is that what we do. It's not virtual reality or augmented reality. We feel that we do reveal reality because it's things that can happen actually around us. It belongs to our own planet, and by adding these new senses, it's like revealing this reality that happens around us that we are unable to perceive naturally. So we feel that it's like a revelation, like revealing, like maybe like a photography, like revealing your own photos. And also for many, many years, we think that actually humans have been to live more comfortable, but maybe we have arrived on a time that maybe we should modify ourselves in order to understand better where we live. For example, after experiencing seismic activity for so long, it's so weird, no, that we've been building such big cities at the edge of the tectonic plates that actually are very dangerous places to live. I wonder if the animals would do that. It feels like we have forgotten how our planet is, how to live, and how to adapt ourselves to it. So maybe adding new senses, we can understand better where we are and maybe even have more empathy. And this is also when I was having the seismic sense in my feet. I also connected to the moonquakes because the moon also shakes, and instead of earthquakes, she has moonquakes. And when I wasn't able to do this in real time, but I did it like from moonquakes that happened in the past. So and we call this actually to become a senstronaut. While we are on Earth, we can have a sense that is connected to space and allow us to perceive something from a space while we are on Earth. So we no longer need to go physically on a space and to be an astronaut. We can remain on Earth and having a new sense that explore space, and we call this to become a senstronaut. And yeah, that's it. We feel that actually, I think it's important that we take responsibility of how we interact with technology. I mean, we are the ones, humans, that need to decide how the relation with technology is. It can be a relation that alienates us from nature, but if we can relate in a way that we can understand better where we are, we can get closer to nature, to other animals, and even to space. Thank you. So
Thank you, Moon. That was fantastic, super inspiring, and I'm just thinking so also appropriate for the whole kind of climate discussion that's going on at the moment. Maybe the cyborg conversation should have come to COP26. This could have been an interesting idea that instead of changing our environment, that we also then consider perhaps changing ourselves or to fit in, to kind of understand better where we live and the planet and other species. I'm just checking here if there are any questions on the chat. I don't see anything, but we're really like just getting to the time anyway. So I would again remind everyone and encourage you very much to join us at Gather, where we can meet with our avatars and hang out and talk about Moon's presentation, and you can ask her any questions. So I really look forward to meeting you there. Thank you very much, Moon, and see you in Gather.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.